Hello and welcome to the Data for Subscriptions podcast, where we learn and explore how to run better subscription businesses. I'm your host, Berat Bonyan, and today I have the pleasure of welcoming Sarika Dua, Financial and Business Systems Director at MasterClass, to join us at the show. Welcome, Sarika.
Thanks, Vedad. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarika Dua. As Vedad mentioned, I'm working as a Financial and Business Systems Director at MasterClass. A quick introduction. In my professional journey, I have worked in multiple capacities in implementing various financial systems and performing various financial transformations in quite a bit of versatile industries with continuous learning all along the way.
So, Sarika, today we're going to spend quite a lot of time to discuss order to cash from all different angles. But the premise of it is, how do we build, run, and optimize the best order to cash systems to support our business? But before we get into all the various topics that we want to discuss, why don't we just lay the foundation so that we're all on the same page? What do we mean when we say an order to cash system? So, why don't we start there?
Oh, sure. So, in very simple and layman terms, order to cash is a very rhythmic end to end process, right from the inception when the order is placed by a customer until the repayment is received, right? It can be said that it is the heart of the financial ecosystem for any organization, and it is quite a bit directly proportional to the cash flow generation. Let's take a very simple example. Let's say a customer buys an iPhone and he pays for it, right? Now the life cycle that happens in the back end, right from the start of the process until the payment is received, the whole process is called order to cash.
Yeah. Most of our followers and listeners, of course, are fairly technical, but needless to say, although with this very simplified view that you gave, we should keep in mind that what we're essentially discussing are quite complex offerings, quite complex businesses, and not to mention the whole push towards usage-based billing. Now, of course, AI and AI monetization is on everybody's mind. So we should keep that in mind when we're speaking about order to cash and why we need to make sure that we have the best foundation to support businesses. But so the first thing I wanted to then get into the topic with you on is, what are the most common bottlenecks that we see when it comes to order to cash systems today?
Yeah. So the bottlenecks could be different, right? It depends on what type of industry you have, what is your size of industry. If it's a startup, late startup, it's a well-blown public company, how the business processes are laid down, what are the different systems that are supporting these business processes being in the operational side of it. So the major bottlenecks, considering all these things in my mind, is the inefficient contract management and execution. If you do not have a good contract management, solution in your business process, it can take way longer and inaccurate data, right? Similarly, if we come to the next point, it would be, delays in when you are doing a customer onboarding. For example, when we say, okay, this is a new customer per se, and have to do the customer onboarding and followed by the order processing for that customer onboarding. If there are delays and again inaccuracies in the information of the data that is being put in, that can relate to the order to cash process, which could be delayed and inaccurate in that manner as well. The most important that I have come across working with various companies is inaccurate invoicing, right? If your invoicing is inaccurate, it can lead to frustration, with the customers, partners, or resellers you're working with. So it is very important to have the accurate data on the invoicing side. Now, the next part that comes in with the invoicing is collections, right? With the collections, if your process is completely broken, that can lead to a lot of bottlenecks in your order to cash process. The whole AR process as a whole, including like the things like credit risk assessment and everything, if it's not up to the par and not very seamless integration between all the business processes within order to cash, it can lead to multiple issues and again the frustrations with the customers and partners. The material weaknesses that can occur can lead to unproductive team efforts. You have material weakness, you are continuously working, your team is continuously working on that, rather than they can use those productive hours towards something else. And all of these issues at the end, which is our major end product, leads to the frail reporting. So these are some of the common bottlenecks with very very issues that pertains to a lot of other things, which can create a lot of fragmentation among the team and among the whole process.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what you just described is quite often the reality for many businesses.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think we want to pick some of those issues and bottlenecks and double click and go a little bit deeper to uncover a bit more of like and to untap your basically your insights. One of the areas I wanted to ask you was let's go into the topic of revenue leakage. And by that, I think again we mean that there is revenue on the table that you're basically not being able to recover. Now, it can go both ways. So it can be a frustration from the company side, meaning that you're actually offering a service that you're not fully billing for correctly. But
Right.
it could actually equally be from the other side, meaning that as a customer, you're actually over consuming or you're under consuming. And there's some form of a mismatch between what you're consuming and what you're paying for. And that can also create its own set of problems.
Oh,
But if
definitely.
from your point of view, how would you explain the main issues that lead to revenue leakage? And if you would go into the details here for us.
Oh, sure. So, for our audiences, let's first understand what the revenue leakage is. The one aspect is that you already explained, Vedan. So, even if the company has gone through an extensive sales cycle, which can be overhauling sometimes, right? Turning the prospects into the customers, signing the contracts, but they are still unable to get the earned revenue. So, that is what revenue leakage is. So, and there could be multifold, reasons for revenue leakage. Billing issues, as I touched based upon earlier as well, that billing issues with inaccurate invoices, which can, when I say inaccurate invoices, I'm talking about the details on the invoice. For example, the amount, the tax amount, the subtotal of it. These small things, contribute a lot to how the billing operations could be. Then one thing could be the age-old and inefficient business processes that are there. Those can lead to reconciliation issues. Let's take an example. For example, if you have a manual handover between one business process to another, the reconciliation between the two processes or the two systems could be a lot sometimes, and takes a lot of team's effort as well, and results on the revenue leakage. Um, Churn can also lead to revenue leakage, as you mentioned, that the frustration that could come through the inefficient methods or processes or the systems not supporting them as well.
And you mentioned churn now, and you've talked about inefficient billing a couple of times. How important would you say the a smooth experience of billing have you seen being the correlation towards reducing, for example, churn and revenue leakage? And if you can be specific with, for example, some of the examples that you've seen and been part of.
Yeah. So specifically talking about example, let's take a very simple example. A customer buys a subscription with some products, right? One subscription, and there are some standalone products with it. Now, having clear notes in on the contract for the billing, like if it's a multi-year deal, if it's having a recurring multiple invoices, and those invoices have specific dates, specific amounts, those products, specific products that the customer has bought, some specific or special things attached to it. Is there a PS or a professional services element that is sold along with the subscription? Like some of the companies, they have their own PS, professional services product, that is packaged along with the subscription. Does PS need to be billed upfront while the subscription goes over the term of the contract? So these are some questions that needs to be answered before, while the contract is being signed. That will help you have a frictionless billing experience, so that you have all the source data, recorded very accurately, and that will lead to having a reduced churn. Now, reduced churn, I know this is a very hot topic these days as well. It can lead to overall superior health of the reducing the churn can lead to overall superior health of the business, right? So it's very important. Churn being there, even if you enhance your product lines or anything, if you have the churn, it could be your biggest enemy, right? So, and it can be resolved with deploying very simple and efficient business processes, systems that support it, and the methods that you undergo with it.
So let's shift the feet a little bit from the identified challenges and problems. Let's talk about how we build to kind of avoid it. So as a starting point, how does an ideal order to cash system look like in your view?
Yeah, an order to cash system, if it's ideal, again, it depends on what kind of business processes is followed, what kind of industry you come in. But the major thing that for an order to cash process is that, is your process streamlined? Is your resource, does your resources or manpower know what they are responsible of? The handover between various, for example, you have an AR team, you have an AP team, you have GL team. Is there a seamless integration between these three teams to understand how the manual handover is going to be taking place? If it's not a manual handover, if it's a system handover, that should also be seamless. So depending upon what kind of methodology or things your company is taking care of, it has to be a seamless integration between the manual handover or the systems. Again, and the second part is then how you lay down your processes flow by flow. For example, in order to cash, first how your order management is being done. Look for the loopholes. I would actually go to the extent and say that try to have a heat map of your whole order to cash process for different modules, for your receivables, for your payables, for your GL, and then see based on that heat map that which is the process that needs more love and care, right? And the other ones you might not need that much, and focus on those processes. That will also help you bring down your close cycle. That will also help you enhance your order to cash model, your process, end to end, right from the start till the end.
How important is automation through and within an order to cash system important when you look at it from being ideal? And I should have been clear by saying ideal, we of course mean capability wise, right? That's what we're discussing. But how important is automation of workflows within?
Yeah, so automation is very important because if you do not have that automation, the manual work power that is, and I'm not talking only about AI, we are also talking about automation when you have a process and you have some inbuilt or pre-built expert systems out there that can do that stuff seamlessly without any errors, and they are audit friendly too. So it depends what kind of automation you are doing, and you are clear in your mind what use cases you have to go upfront. What are the business use cases that you want to automate? Once you have all that knowledge and things cleared out in your mind, then pick up the right solution based on your business use case, and after picking that right solution, the implementation of it. Now, why I'm talking straight away into the automation is it is important to automate to bring down your close cycle, to streamline your order to cash process, to have a frictionless billing experience. Whatever bottlenecks we talked about earlier in order to cash system, automation is one step ahead in that way to reduce all those bottlenecks.
Right, right. Of course, you've mentioned before the manual handovers. So the reality for most companies is, we're of course painting up for the point of the discussion what sounds like a simplified view of an order to cash. Reality is for most businesses that they have a very complex and multi-layered order to cash. They have so many different systems within. If you have been around for 50 or 100 years, you of course have lots of systems, legacy that you've carried with yourself. Now you're looking at monetization of potentially of AI applications. Suddenly you need modern tooling for that as well at the same time. then, of course, between the different systems, none of the systems are really built to speak with each other. This is why some of us in the business, we talk about different formats.
Yeah.
So these are not built to talk to each other by nature. They were built to do their job individually. This is the reality of why you have tons of people that need to sit there manually making sure that all the right data points that are being passed back and forth
Yes.
are correct. And this is where the issues actually start to emerge, because this is where errors start to occur.
Yes. That's absolutely true, and this holds true specifically in terms of data, right? If your data from right from the start is not accurate, you have not maintained the data in a way that it can talk to your downstream systems as well. If from the inception the data is dirty, then you're going to have problems in all the downstream systems when they talk to each other, or even if you're doing a manual handover. So maintaining the quality of that data, investing your time and money there would always lead to a very a cherry on top in the whole order to cash process. So getting that data ready for to be able to talk to other systems, maintaining the quality throughout the cycle. It's not that a one time project yet you clean up your data and you're good. You have to maintain it towards the whole process.
Let's stay on the topic of data for a few minutes, because this is where I was going to go next.
Okay.
So usage is something that, of course, is very hot, has been for a couple of years, but I would say more so than ever.
Mhm.
So I guess the first question I wanted to ask you is, if we think about usage as like the measurement of usage of our products, where does that occur in the order to cash system, in your view?
The usage data is very important. I can actually say it's like a peanut butter in our PB&J sandwich, right? So if your organization specially has a billing usage based, in that case, all the usage data matrix that you have collected and processed in an accurate manner, it will help reduce the topics that we discussed before: revenue leakage, churn. And let's understand how this whole process works, right?
Yeah.
If we know how and what part of a product or service is being used by the customer, right, it will help reduce churn in many ways. As we now know that the usage data is, if harnessed and metered correctly, that means you have a product, you are selling it usage based, and you know how much it is being used by the customer and which way it is being used. Are there any bottlenecks, any issues with that? That's how you harness it, you meter it correctly, all that information, and it will lead to various benefits in the whole order to cash cycle. And we should understand how we can best optimize it, right? The most compelling reason to automate this is, with the large volume of data, you need to deal with your customers, partners, employees for their subscriptions, renewals, upsells. We are not talking about only the new deals here. We are also talking about renewals, the upsells, whatever the business process you have. So data usage is very important, and it's a very compelling reason that you can get to monetize it, to be able to meter it correctly.
My understanding is that MasterClass, although you're fairly new at MasterClass, it's purely usage driven, correct?
That's
Um,
absolutely right.
Maybe you can explain a little bit in light of Masterclass what you just explained in theory, how it actually unfolds in
Yes.
terms of measuring, tracking usage, and acting on that usage data.
Yeah, sure. So masterclass, as you know, it's the classes that is given by the masters in their line. So having it, since it comes from the entertainment industries, how the consumers, how the different businesses is consuming that data, the content that is being sold by masterclass, right? So once you have known that how many consumers have logged in, used their subscriptions, or have used this content in a way that would help them, getting all that data analytics from on your side, getting all that data and using that data to further enhance your future classes, future products, or the way your business is working. Maybe it could be changing how your content management works, maybe changing the way your order to cash system or process works. So you can use that usage data in multiple way. You for masterclass, you have to obviously get that data first in an accurate manner, then using that data that is being used by the consumers and using it for different purposes, for enhancing all your business processes, your future product lines, your pipeline, and whatnot.
So before I go to the next question for you, which is actually how to build this ideal order to cash system. So as a summary, what I hear from you is you need to make sure that at whatever stage you are as a business, what you want out of an effective order to cash system is that it's seamless, that is as automated as possible to eliminate any errors. You want to, of course, also it helps by having less people connected to all the manual errors from a cost perspective. But actually, what you over indexed on is the data quality by having more automated processes. But then the next question that I want to ask you is there's this debate constantly about building in-house yourself versus buying purpose built. What has been your experience of what is the best way to do it? Granted, every business has its own dynamics.
Yeah. That's a very good question and quite trending question these days. Should we go in house or should we get buy something that is pre-built? I think for any process, let's lay down the pros and cons of two different things that we are gonna talk about. If it's in house, obviously, if it would make sense if your team is IT heavy and your IT team is ready to build this in-house tool for you and not just build but also maintain it for future, right? When I say maintain, if there are any upgrades, if there are any integration changes, anything that pertains to it towards maintaining that in-house tool. While if you buy a pre-built product that has many expert eyes into it, not only terms of system that your business requirements are, but also the whole business process. So let's say you want to enhance or say that today our business process, this one's working, but based on our volume we want to scale it and we want to have more features on in our in-house tool. So it's a continuous improvement with that in-house tool. While if it's a pre-built system, you might already have that feature, right, available there, which is used by other customers, and then you can connect with other customers who are using that particular tool or pre-built system that can and take advantage of those all recommendations, tips and tricks and whatnot. This is just one side of thing. If you talk about the whole oscillation between both the solutions, there are many things. For example, version handling. If your in-house tool is connecting to other systems to get the data, to flow the data and everything, in that case, if those two systems, integrating systems, are being changed, there is version handling upgrades these days, right? Your in-house system should be able to support that version handling by other systems it is being connected to, right? If there are bundle changes and whatnot, it should be scalable enough in also in terms of resources, right? If your IT team resource who implemented the system, that knowledge should be transitioned to the next one, so to be able to IT team to be able to consume and be able to support you, and not support you in time sensitive tasks like month end close, year end close. They should be able to support you in a premium level, which all the other systems already provide you in those SLA tiers. So there are many pros and cons for both the solutions if you lay down and then decide which would be the best one for you. For some companies, it could be the in-house because they are IT heavy, they have resources to support it all together all the year long. But for some companies, it's better to take help from the outbound or standalone in-house systems.
Great. I'm just going to add one more perspective. We could add a lot actually, but one of the things that is on top of everybody's mind is data security and data integrity. And this is one of those factors that a lot of businesses are concerned about. And the more we undoubtedly are moving to usage-based models, which means that we want to understand the usage of our products, the more this question will just continue to kind of explode in terms of just handling of. But I wanted to also provide some coloring in terms of our own observations from DigitalRoute as well as what we see with customers. Some of the best practices we've seen, Sarika, is even with businesses that are IT and engineering heavy, what they've come around is first and foremost to ask themselves, what is our core business? Is our core business to build a homegrown system to manage the data workflows within the order to cash? For most businesses, probably the answer is no, which then leads then to another problem when you go about building it, which is why businesses are getting off of their in-house solutions because they're simply not fit for purpose. And you raise an excellent point, which is extremely cumbersome for businesses, which means your multiple systems have their own lives. There will be upgrades. Every time this happens, your internal team needs to scramble to fix that. And it becomes an endless loop of more resources, more OPEX for something that you can simply be without. And I would say perhaps the most important aspect of them all is speed and agility. And this is something that I think business process owners or let's say portfolio owners really understand, which is that suppose you want to be adaptive in terms of how you price and package your one and the same product even, just to see the receptiveness. Yeah. You want to be quick. But imagine the ticket handling with your IT teams could be up to a week, 2 weeks. This is the reality of what businesses are dealing with, and we're still just scraping the surface here of what some of the problems. That is, I think, what businesses and business owners need to take into consideration when thinking about how do I set up an order to cash system that supports my business as opposed to being almost like a blocker.
That's absolutely true. And these days, these pre-built systems have their advanced customer support, enhanced support, and premium tier that you can get with your subscriptions that will help you maintain the system as well. You need that maintenance because of your business growth, the scalability. That okay, you had these many products when you implemented the system, but it should be able to scale up to the new products, right? The product lines that you're going to offer. So for that scalability also, it's very important to have a pre-built system where all the expertise has been already put on and it can scale or grow with you.
Yeah. But we also, we want to keep this conversation very frank, and we don't want to make it sound like we're trying to make any shameless plugs here. Any business that is out there, all of us, regardless of our roles, we have enough software and tools already as is. That's why there's a discussion about just bloated middleware or software wherever you're looking at. In my view, is that for any business that's looking at building an ideal order to cash system, you should pressure anybody who's trying to sell you something and go, if I'm bringing this in, what is it offloading? And you mentioned something important a few minutes back in our conversation. You said one of the bottlenecks and problems is just we have too many FTEs, full-time employees that are just locked into manual labor. They should actually do other high-value tasks as opposed to just solving problems. So this could be a great starting point, I would say, to just pressure the company that is coming with a great solution and say, so tell me how I can reduce, for example, the number of full-time employees that are tied up solving these issues.
Yeah.
Starting point.
Yes, for sure. So how about when you have make up your mind, okay, we need a solution, right? Where to look for it, how to look for it, what would it solve? These are some questions to keep in mind while going for a solutions. Let's say you are going for different demos for different systems. Have your business use case with you always to make sure that what you are trying to get, it is solving your business case. It can have extra added features, this and that, and dashboards and whatnot, but your main business solution or business use case should be solved. Having said that, that business use case you can build in a way that your full-time employee hours are reduced. When I say reduced, that means not that their job would be gone. It's that their hours would be productively used for other things, for enhancing the business processes, for taking in all the new product lines or products that has been offered to contribute towards the OKRs for the company goals, right? Rather than doing that age-old tasks of maintaining heavy, bulky Excel sheets or something like that, and looking for the data on their day to day basis. So use those hours productively. Excuse me. And that can be done by choosing the right system. For choosing the right system, I can give you a little tip as well. With my professional career, I have worked in different consultancy capacities and others, right? Always takes all the sales pitch demos, but always talk to a trusted person who has no qualms attached to it, and take their advice that what should you do, and talk to other customers who have implemented it, the customer referral. Go for it that will help you long way deciding on what system to use.
Sarika, we're going to take a question before we move on. And this one is coming in from Ali. Thank you for posting it. How can this also contribute in launching new projects? I think by this, Ali, you meant how can a more effective, agile order to cash system also help with launching new products and offerings?
Yeah. So for launching a new project, again, you need to understand what you want to get out of it. What is your end goal of it, right? If it is related to order to cash process and you are launching a project, let's say as an example, you want to change the way the collections is working or the billing is working, right? To be able to get launching this new project, understand what your end goal is your end goal the automated emails that goes out to your customers on the collections perspective? Okay, this is due these days, this has been due for, this will be due in next 30 days, or this has been due for 90 days. How does that work? So build your business case, think of your end goal, what it should be, and then decide how you can automate it. For that project, decide on a project manager, what resourcing you would need, and all the other things attached to it. Decide on the project, the timelines, and everything, and then go about it.
Ali, do let us know in the chat box in case we answer the question. Otherwise, we'll take another stab at it. So I'm going to go back to the final set of questions, Sarika, as we're kind of wrapping this up. I'm curious, what are the essential factors you look at when you're monitoring order to cash improvement and performance?
Yeah. So there are various metrics attached to this topic, right? The main metrics that I have seen that helps in the whole order to cash product process is your financial close, right? If your close process is taking longer than the average process cycle, which is 4 to 8 days, that is a clear indicator to determine the areas within the whole order to cash cycle that can be optimized, right? It could be system, it could be a business process. Once this specific area that is creating the bottleneck is identified, it can be targeted and resolved in a streamlined fashion. And the enhancement or the performance enhancement for order to cash is would be then a byproduct of it. Once you target what process is being the bottleneck for this financial close process, it can be a very useful metrics to be used. Other metrics could be DSO calculation in your billing process, and the accuracy of your financial reports, which is the end goal for any organization, right? For the financial reports to be super accurate, to be able to be shared with the executive leadership.
And by DSO, you mean day sales outstanding, I assume? Yeah,
That's
gotcha. These are, in fact, I was going to say 2 out of these 3 factors that you keep on your monitoring screen, I would say, we actually talked about them at a previous episode the other week. And we'll make sure to kind of add them in the show notes as well so that people can easily access it. But we were looking at one such case where we were reducing time to billing, basically, and invoicing by half. And the reason in this case, Sarika, as you've already touched in the previous part of our discussion today, was that due to impure data, by the time of billing, they need to do a lot of manual efforts just to improve the data with just days clicked on before they could get to the billing. So this is an excellent and an insightful point I can hear that you raised. The other one is, of course, the more we move into usage-based, the more complicated a lot of us feel that the forecasting becomes. So because one of the benefits of having just annual subscription model is that there's more forecasting capabilities. So there is this catch-22. We need to and have to move to usage because it's great for the business and the customer experience, but it has some flip sides to it. But this, I would leave it as a cliffhanger because we talked about it in a very interesting way, and there are so many interesting capabilities being developed that are addressing forecasting as well. So I urge everybody who has that as a concern to listen to that episode. I have two final questions for you now, Sarika. One is, how often should businesses review their order to cash strategy?
Oh, definitely. That's a very, very good question and very important one, because many people or many organizations do not, look forward to that question. But it's a very important one. An ideal scenario would be monthly, but if you cannot do that, at least quarterly. That's the least that can be done. The order to cash process enhancement should be included in a company wide OKR, which can ensure that it is being achieved by each and every employee that is working towards it, right? So that is the best way to even get it analyzed, get it reviewed, and implement on it.
Right. So perhaps from a strategy perspective, it could be, an annual or perhaps even biannual, but what you meant on a monthly basis, that going back to the performance metrics, the essential things that you said that you keep track on, we need to look at them monthly, if not even more often, to make sure that we're basically performing in the right direction. Gotcha. As a wrap up, what are the, let's say, three items you want to leave our listeners with? What should we think about in terms of building towards this ideal order to cash system?
So the three things, or a little more than that, that comes to my mind when we talk about it. Keep your process and system optimization as one of your priorities. Do not deprioritize it on your list, that let's get through the close first. Let's get through this new product initiative first, and we'll look about the optimization of the processes and systems later. The process and system optimization will help you in the longer run to have all these things seamlessly that you have in your goals, right? So keep that in your as an important metrics whenever you're working. The second one is maintaining the data hygiene. I know we talked a lot about it, but maintain the data hygiene. It's very, very important. Now, or system optimization or process optimization go hand in hand with data, right? If your data is not correct or pure, it will lead to many issues, even if you have done a ton of other optimizations. So it goes hand in hand. The third, which again we have touched upon, is building your business use cases. The painful points that you have that you want to resolve. It could be as small as, oh, this report is taking too longer to run, or how can we, just get notified that this report is run and is having accurate data and the columns that we need or the grouping that we need. It could be as simple as that. So build your business use case to help reduce your painful procedures, day-to-day procedures. Once the problem is identified, it gets you one step ahead to find the resolution. So have all these things, part of your day-to-day procedures and activities that you do, and you will see the difference.
Great. Thank you so much. Sarika, again, thank you for this conversation. This has been very interesting and insightful. And also thank you for everybody tuning in today. Before we close, I also want to mention, for anybody who wants to learn more about this, just drop a hashtag order to cash for this event page on LinkedIn, or for that matter, any of our channels that you have access to. And we'll make sure to follow up with you, because you might want to dig more into some of the bottlenecks we spoke about today. You also might want to learn more about MasterClass. In any way, we're here to pick up the thread as soon as you let us know. Sarika, again, a big thanks to you.
Thanks, Bedard.